Good evening, everyone. My name is Slav Branovsky. I'm the founder of Elegant Club and your host and presenter today. We are running a special session called How to Drive Your Sales in a Tech Startup, and especially in 2022. So today we will try to cover the topics related building up the sales strategy, making your first sales at the idea stage, and also how to provide the sustainable growth of your sales, how to negotiate, how to make sure you have a clear roadmap how to scale up your sales process. Today we have an amazing panel of our experts, and I want to highlight that that particular session is related to our upcoming book project called How to Build a Tech Startup from Concept to Market. And this particular session is related to sales. And our experts, the book contributors, will have amazing contributions tonight. So in case you get any question about sales process, feel free to chat, to text your message in chat, and we will cover this particular question during our live broadcast session. I would like to invite our experts and ask them to introduce themselves. First of all, I would like to ask Liliana Kaimekan from London, who joined us tonight, to give an introduction for those who didn't see our previous sessions yet, and also tell us a bit more about backgrounds of Liliana, and also just give a bit of information about the activities you run, and please join us. Welcome, Liliana. Good evening.
Good evening, Slava. Good evening, everyone. Very happy to be here again to this session, to the program, and talk with founders about how we can support them in finding new revenue streams and really scale up the business, or make it work. I'm Liliana Kaimekan. I'm a business transformation strategist with wide experience within the corporate environment, spending quite a lot of big part of my career in companies like Unilever or Tata Consumer Products, where I initiated some startup incubators, helping these companies to drive innovations, to really be front end of the innovation agenda and create what we are calling an entrepreneurship culture. Also, I'm teaching various topics around entrepreneurship at HALT International Business School, marketing topics around brand building, brand development, brand management, and also design thinking for social impact or trends and innovation. So, additional to this, I'm leading the HALT Founders Lab from faculty perspective, and as a professor, and support which is an incubator part of the HALT International Business School, where we support our students to develop their business ideas, to really bring them to life, and aiming by the end of their studies to have a business up and running. So very happy to be here this evening and share and get some ideas together with the other panelists and share how we can really reach out to your customers. I think that's so important. What's the route to market and how you can sell the products. Good to be here. Thank you, Slava.
Thank you, Liliana. My pleasure to see you during our discussion. As you mentioned before, for sure, sales question is essential, the key question for every startup, how to make sure you're able to get some customers. And equally, as you work with the super early stage startups, and I think we will try to cover the approach, how to find this right sales strategy for startups even at idea stage, and then we will try to go to the next stage of startup development. So please stay with us. Now I would like to introduce our following expert. Join us today from Hamburg, from Germany, Christine Fallow. If you can join our discussion, and also please, if you can introduce yourself and tell us a bit more about your background and all your experience. Please join us.
Great. Thank you very much, Slava, and hello to everybody who's listening. My name is Christine Fallow, and my background is strategic procurement in big corporations. So that's the function where you have to go when you want to sell something eventually, besides the technical department. So I've been working in leadership functions in corporations like Nivea, Beiersdorf, Henkel, or Villeroy & Boch in the central strategic procurement department, as well as in innovations from the sourcing market. So I'm very much used to receive and have meetings with big suppliers, but also with small innovative ones. And when I changed to consulting in strategic procurement 3 years ago, I realized when I had contact with startups that obviously very often they don't have to buy a lot of things, especially when you're a tech startup, but you have to go and sell to procurement. And I can provide really a lot of insights what happens in such a meeting. Because I know when you're new in the business, you probably haven't had too many negotiations and meetings with big corporations before. And so I can tell a lot what happens in this negotiation, whom to approach first, technical department or procurement, how to prepare for this meeting, because eventually you can organize internally the right people, the right strategy, really have a lead, but when you have a meeting with BMW or Airbus or Unilever or Henkel, you have to perform. That's this one chance, and I can help you really prepare for that meeting professionally and have the best chance to win this deal.
Thank you very much, Christine, for your introduction. And I think your experience will be super helpful, as you know, a lot of startups, especially in B2B sector, they can be profitable and they can be cash flow positive even from first sale. And the discussion how to make this negotiation happen, how to convince customer to use and try your product or service, this is essential part of any sales process in the startup. So thank you for joining us. Please stay. Now I would like to introduce our another expert who joined us from France, Bruno Levy. Bruno, if you stay with us, please join. And I would like to ask you to make an introduction of yourself, your experience, and thanks for joining us as well. So welcome.
Great, thank you. But you don't see me in video. I don't know. You see an old picture of me. I was not expecting that, but it's okay. I'm going to speak. Sorry for that, guys. So we are, I've created a company called Hypergrowth, and we have developed a growth marketing approach, which is dedicated to B2B markets. And basically what we help startups, B2B startups at all stage, from early stage to rather advanced stage, is to predict what decision makers will pay attention to first. And this, because this enables to find out then how to accelerate their buying decision. So the key variable on which we work is to actually speed up the decision cycle of decision makers. And that is very key because if you reduce the time it takes for potential customers and for decision makers to understand what is how your offer is essential for their business, then you have basically acted on the key variable to accelerate the decision cycle. And so that's what we work on. And we have been working with a huge variety of B2B startups, as I was saying, at different stage. I would say the two main stage, we work mostly with three types of company. I would say launchers, initial company, which are like launching a new solution or making a pivot, and so or pivoting, sorry. And in this case, they ask themselves, is there a new market, and what positioning will enable to conquer it? Because if you pivot, it means that you have been failing on a previous market and you don't want to reproduce this failing. We work also with what we call scale seekers. And this is people who need to find, in B2B, they need to find the use case that make their sales more predictable. And last but not least, we work also, sorry for that, with speed seekers. Sorry, I was receiving a phone call. We work, sorry, last thing, with what company that we call the speed seekers. And here, they are more advanced stage company. And the key variable there is to reduce the length of a decision cycle. And we have, we are doing work with all three types of company. That's what I would say.
Thank you, Bruno, for your introduction. Yeah, please stay with us because we will cover some questions related to the stage you mentioned when some startups, they need to scale up to provide sustainable growth of businesses and make sure they also are cost effective, isn't it? So it's not only about scaling, but also making sure you can provide some kind of cost effective solutions for your growth and scaling up of your sales process. So please stay with us. It's a pleasure to see you. And we will carry on with our topics today. As I mentioned before, we will start from idea stage because a lot of startups, they starting from the moment when just got an idea and they're looking for some solution to pitch to customers, to find that approach to get the first sale. And for sure, it's quite challenging, especially if there is no product or service yet. And some startups, they definitely, at idea stage, they already start talking to potential customers, users, in order to get some feedback, some thoughts on that. And for sure, the first question I have across our intensive debates today. So how to start essays at idea stage? It's quite essential, especially as I mentioned at early stage startups, and they need some validation of their idea. And I think for sure I would like to ask Liliana to contribute to that discussion, because at special program HALT Founders Lab of International Business School, HALT International Business School, there are many startups at idea stage looking for some potential customers. So my question to Liliana, maybe again by your observation, how to make this happen? So what would be your approach and your advice how to try to make first sales at idea stage? Liliana, well, please join us.
Yes. So I think probably the first sale is the most difficult one. I think, and you, in order to aim to make your first sale, it is very important to make sure you are prepared for this. How to prepare? Definitely, you to have a very clear and solid and strong pitch, presentation, and story. It's very important. So it's really make sure that you first understand your customer. You know exactly who is your customer. You understood what are their specific needs, and then you come with a very clear value proposition which fits their needs. Answer that once, and start the conversation, which really very sharp and very clear, straightforward. Tell them, what exactly you can offer, and I think it's not necessarily what you can offer, but more how you can solve their problem. Yeah, tell them how you can basically bring value to their specific business by solving a very big problem they have. So I think that's a starting point. Where to find these customers? I think that's part of the research, and definitely should be in the moment when you start discovering your customer, you should have already an idea where this customer is. Additional to this, there are a lot of opportunities where businesses can share their ideas, can present their pitch, and interact with possible investors, or interact with possible customers. So be open and join this kind of opportunities, because there where you can find some customers. There will be people who are interested in finding out more about your idea. So that means investors, which is also a very interesting point for you as a business, but also your possible customers. I think, be prepared, and be able to tell them how to solve a problem they have, and how your solution will bring value to them.
Well, absolutely. Thank you, Liliana, for contribution, because it's a key to know what's the value proposition you may offer to your potential customers, users, and it's definitely a subject also of the market research and understanding of the problem research, how to make your solution beneficial for potential users or customers. But imagine we identified potential user customer. Sometimes it's quite tricky to understand who is responsible for this decision-making process, or who is in charge to watch, to see your demo, to understand whether that product is a good one or not. So look into your experience, especially you work in the corporate environment, in some big organizations environment. So maybe you can give an advice, who is that department, and who is that person in the big organization, and how to find the right person in the organization to make sure you pitch to the right one and you're not missing the opportunity.
No, absolutely. In any big organization, procurement, and we have a fellow panelist here with us, can tell us more details about how the conversation is going on, and we talk about procurement. But definitely, so procurement team, it is the one which is in charge most of the time in taking the decision about connecting or working with a new supplier. I think that's very important. But on a different note, also different other departments, or people in different other departments will engage in conversation with new suppliers whenever they are looking for finding partners to solve their problems. So talking from the marketing perspective, there have been various cases when I got in touch with some new possible partners whenever I was looking for a different solution. It was about a research agency, either it was about a creative agency, or it was about somebody else who can support developing some innovations, for example. So we just had a very interesting partnership with Tata Consumer Products with a startup working into the beverage industry when we were looking into developing and extending our portfolio. And definitely it was for us working and engaging with them to understand and actually get some learning and knowledge from their side, but also support in extending and creating a partnership. So I would say make sure that, again, if your solution address and solving could solve a big problem of a big company, for example, you can address on one hand the procurement department. So definitely you can research and see who is part of that procurement department, what are their roles and responsibilities, simply because there is a different structure there. But not only this, knowing exactly what you can offer, address people working in that specific environment. So if you have a new innovative solution which will allow engaging better with the consumers, for example, either it's from marketing research perspective, either you have a technology which will allow by embedding AI or other advanced technology in producing and delivering some products, in distributing them, in creating new routes to market, in creating new, more sustainable solution to deliver some products. If we talk about fast-moving consumer goods, I think definitely you can address either the marketing department, the innovation team with that specific business, the supply chain team with that specific business. Is that many times they'll look for partners, and to create this ecosystem. So I think that's a way. The other, it is, of course, as I said, there are a lot of opportunities to network and engage with these people by attending this kind of events. So be there, be part of these events, of different activities. When that's especially the ones when are which are going on with specific topics. Yeah. So if there is a conference around a startup or around something which is can be of an interest for a new technology or developing a new technology about trends in a certain sector, definitely is please join there. So stay I would say alert and make sure that you get in touch with the right people. You can find them, of course. Social media, it's always a good opportunity to engage and find these people. But as I said, kind of these networking opportunities will become another way to engage with people.
Thank you very much, Liliana, for giving such a comprehensive overview where to start and where to find the right people in the big organizations, and your tips of going to some relevant events, activities, checking up social media in order to find the right one. And I think especially for tech-related startups, it's quite common that some founders, they trying to reach some tech departments in the organization. And now I also would like to ask Christine's opinion, whether it's a right decision, and again, when to understand if tech department is probably not the right place to go first. And maybe you can give also your reflection on that question, please.
Yes, thank you. And thank you, Liliana, for this great input. And I would like to build on this. It's really, there are some cases where procurement is really even the best and first choice. First of all, if you know already the technology and how it's needed and what the value of this technology in that company is, maybe you have worked in a similar environment before, or you have insiders in your startup, so that you really have a very solid value proposition already and know what the advantage for the company is. So then procurement is really a good contact, because you can present to them the value proposition already. Especially, and very often it is, if your technology brings savings to the company. So procurement is obviously always looking for saving opportunities. So if you say the processes are being faster afterwards, the product is less expensive, you can shorten the production time, all these kind of things will lead to not only product price reductions, but process cost reductions, total cost reductions. And that's what is interesting for procurement. So really procurement would be a great first contact for you there. Secondly, it is also a good contact when it's a big corporation and there are many affiliates worldwide. So you can't contact BMW in Germany, in Switzerland, in Africa, in Asia. So there is a central procurement department where you can actually have a contact and they know all the demands worldwide. So there you can really match the value proposition with the global demand. And the other thing is also sometimes you have started maybe already with a technical department, and sometimes they need weeks and weeks and weeks, and you have been to answer because they don't have the capacity to follow up. You have sent them samples already, and you don't see any progress. So in this third case, where you had contact to the technical department already, but there is no real progress and not a real project set up or a cross-functional meeting organized by the technical department, I would really stress together with this technical department, and you would suggest to also include procurement. So these are my 3 advices for that.
Thank you, Christine, for your reflection on how to find the right department for pitching and presenting your startup project. Because as we discussed here, is not only essential to provide the value proposition for your potential users and customers, but also make sure you reach right people. And as early you can do this, as better, because you probably save up so much time and money when you get some customers' feedback and you realize that you need to make some change and improvements in your startup idea or even existing product. So maybe I can ask Bruno if you can also contribute to our discussion, if there is any advice you can give to our viewers on how to make your first sale, especially if we have idea stage of the business.
Yes, because at the idea stage, our experience of companies at the idea stage is the following. We work with several accelerators and in France, and so we see many companies at the idea stage, many startups. And the problem you have is that since you have an idea stage, you're thinking about your solution. If you are of a new technology, maybe, or a new concept of service, and very, very, very probably you don't know how to sell it. Okay, you don't know how to present it to your customer. You don't know how to interest them. So if there's something to avoid, is you have only one occasion to make a good impression, per se, and so we recommend to do something which is like, if you really don't master know how to sell, well, don't sell. Okay, what we recommend in this case, it's very strange. I'm having a picture of me who's speaking. I don't know what it is. Anyway, I'm sorry for that. Don't sell. Okay, try to understand the need of your customer. So this is maybe more easily said than done, but it means that you would not get this information by speaking with technical people or from procurement. If people you have access to, you need to try to find people who are going to be, first of all, users, and speak with them and try to understand who is going to own the budget. Okay. Now, very probably in a lot of B2B case, the people who own the budget for your solution are quite high level. They can be C-level executive and so on. And that's where it starts to be very difficult for early stage startup, because on one hand, you want to actually reach this person, and because this is the person who is going to be the decision maker for your solution, okay? And on the other hand, you don't have a sales pitch. So how do you, and this person, let's imagine this person is maybe a director of operation or the COO of a company. He doesn't have a lot of time to spend with you, okay? So what we recommend in this case is to find a subject area which is relevant, to speak with him, an area of problem, okay? For instance, let me give you Let's say you have a supply chain solution. You're selling something that is managing the supply chain. Well, an area that certainly a supply chain director could be interested in speaking about the problem he meets for managing his supply chain. It looks stupid, but it's not, because this guy is a manager of supply chain. This is what he's thinking about. And the number of people that comes to try to understand his need are not very frequent. So be very honest. This guy can be a C-level, could be on the board. You try to contact him and you say, look, I've created a company and I'm interested to understand the need that people like you have as far as managing the supply chain is concerned. And you will not believe that you will get a lot of meeting. And then you will need to succeed this meeting, and that will be behind the thing, is that don't try to sell to this person. Don't speak about their solution. You don't know what is the thing that he will pay attention to, what are of interest to him. Try to understand and spend a long time asking questions only about this problem. What is difficult? Why? What are the things he would like to do? What would be maybe the ideal solution? And don't try to force him to say that your solution is good. It's too soon. And if you do that with rigorously, and we advise, we know, we have a long experience with many startups doing that, you will earn respect and you will create a connection with the decision maker. And at this stage, this is invaluable for an early stage company. So that's what we advise. And once you have gathered all the need of these people, like let's say you succeed in meeting 5 or 6, you can look at your notes. You will see some commonalities, and you will see that some decision makers have problems which are closer to your solution, but maybe your solution can solve no. So then we can schedule a second meeting and say, okay, you position your solution as a reply, as an answer to his problems. And therefore, you're doing something that all good salesmen are doing, which is to understand the problem first and come with your solution after. So that's what we recommend, but to do it in a very structured way.
Thank you very much, Bruno. I think you gave such an amazing reflection that it's not actually sometimes a proper sales process. It's also it's a process of understanding what the problem is about. And your proposition is to get that collective information about the challenge, the problem customer has, and then your solution can be an answer to this list of challenges. And that's becoming a bit more, maybe not so pushy, more friendly, more related to the challenge and problem of particular customer. But what I guess all of us observe when we work with startups and we observe some startup pitches, I think one of the challenges of some startup founders that they realize that actually the sales process and maybe engaging with potential user or customer is quite difficult, challenging. Maybe they have lack of confidence, and sometimes it's not about kind of understanding the problem. It's also about the engagement, the delivery, the presenting and pitching experience. And one more time, I think the HALT Founders Lab of International Business School, HALT International Business School in London, they make a great job on helping students to increase that confidence and possibility for them to present and pitch their ideas in front of wide audience. But for sure, I would like to ask Liliana, and if you maybe can reflect on the challenge when founders say, well, sales process is not for me. It's something I want to avoid. How to deal with that situation and how to make sure startup founders, they still able to present their ideas in front of customers. Maybe you have your thoughts on that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think first of all, it is making sure you know what idea is about. So what we've seen many times, it is founders starting with something in mind and then adjusting in the moment when they reach and start building their value proposition or their lean business canvas. So I think these are really good tools in helping, first of all, to understand what your business is about, to define the value proposition, and then move forward and put all the other aspects of key initial aspects of a business, using a business canvas. That's really, really a good tool, which allow us to also really build and see and understand how your business start developing in this a very, very early stage. Of course, that always will be emotions, and not all of us are really, the best presenters, from the beginning. it's about practice. So what we do at HAL Founders Lab, it is really practicing it every single week. So we have our founders presenting their business idea every time and getting feedback from their peers, getting feedback from us, from mentors, for everyone. So coming to your point, Slava, I think first of all, it is point number one, make sure that you are very clear what's your value proposition, what's the problem you solve, who is your customer, and what exactly you bring different versus your competitors. What's your point of difference? Point number two, it is bring this into a coherent space. Use any of the tools existing into the startup world to to help you synthesize and really create the essence of what your business stands for. And then I would say the third point will be about practicing. So it's like with everything. So if you want to get better of something, you need to practice, to exercise, and that's exactly with the pitch. Yeah. So do it many times and ask for feedback. What I notice is sometimes, especially in a very early stage, some of the founders will be very shy or will be afraid of sharing their ideas that somebody may steal it. Very honest and based on what I learned in my experience is, any idea, it's a good idea, but at the stage being just an idea stage, this has no value. Yeah, it is something very nice on a piece of paper, which I don't think anyone will buy it if it's not a piece of art. Yeah, so a business idea on a paper, that's not necessarily business, and there's nothing. So you really need to go out there and share this with your customers, share this with other people, get feedback, and this will help you to really strengthen it. Talk about your business, engage with people, and get them, to really buy in your business. Even they may not be initially your customers and they to buy, but they can introduce you to somebody else who may have the need of your solution. Or they may connect you with somebody else who again will be there in a position to help you reach the procurement department of a company, or reach the CEO, or whatever, the leader of a certain department who is looking for a solution similar with the one you offer. So go out there, practice, and make sure you are able to define and build your idea in a very sharp, crisp story.
Thank you, Liliana, for giving that reflection on how to get that confidence in order to pitch and present your startup idea in front of your target customers and users. And that's very essential tips to help those who are just about to start building their ventures. And as we know, sometimes your first presentation can be also the moment when you also need to negotiate as well, isn't it? Sometimes it can be combined. And also I would like to ask Christine to join our discussion, because what if your first presentation turned into the procurement? How to prepare to this meeting, and what's need to remember about in order to make sure it can be successful?
Yeah, this is a very important discussion which we have right now, because from my experience, there are many not real ideas out there how such a meeting is taking place. So it's not a meeting where there's a mean procurement person who's challenging you and you have to be a wizard of technical strange things and to fight for your prices. You have to fight, but the way how to fight for your business is very different. And I pick up what Liliana just said. You have to be prepared, and you have to have and you need practice in presenting your business. So when you go to procurement, don't bother about learning about tactical stuff and how to do little tricks and stuff. You will be nervous enough when you go to a big corporation and present your business, when you have to think when to lean back, when to be loud. It won't work. And the worst case is you will look not authentic. So just be authentic and individual. So, but how do you still get the best deal? the best deal with from my experience, 80% chance plus is when you're well prepared. And we spoke a lot of preparation earlier already about all the information which you have to get before you go into such a meeting, like your value proposition, who are your contact persons, what is exactly the problem you are solving, but also especially for this one particular potential client, make a business case for him, for this procurement person, calculating for him. So I learned that you ask them, so what would be your demand for this? Then calculate, okay, if you need 100,000 pieces of this per year, you will save typically such and such. So, and the price, and then you can say, and the price for this is XYZ. If you can present to him the business case, if you know the competition, if you know your calculation very well, then you can just stay with your value proposition. When they start to negotiate, one very important rule is don't give in into a point without getting something. So if the procurement person says, yes, but we need 10%, 3% discount on this, and they say, well, maybe I can do something there, but then the terms of payment need to be shorter. We need the money earlier. So always, if you give into something, or you say you can do 1%, but only if you do this and this for me, or if you can improve the packaging, what can you do for that? So only give into a point if you get something, and if you're well prepared, actually, and know your business, then it won't happen that you suddenly are at a point where you reduce the price already by 20, 30, 40%, because that's what procurement will do. They challenge you how far you can go down. So don't be astonished if they continue to say that's not enough. That's not enough. They're just waiting for the moment where you say, this is my limit. So be prepared for your limit, and don't just give in to something if you get something.
Thank you very much, Christine, for your reflection on how to get prepared for your meeting with the potential customer and how to have a clear Welcome back to our live broadcast discussion. Sorry for little interruption in our connection. So we are coming back to our discussion about sales in a tech startup. So we discussed about possibility to get prepared for your procurement meeting and the first meeting to pitch and present your startup idea. And now I would like to highlight another challenge apart of knowing the value proposition, knowing your potential customers, they needs, and also being able to present and pitch your idea in very good way, and also getting a very aligned approach to each customer. But equally, sometimes all of these points we raised before, sometimes it's not helping much, and still we're coming to the point when there are no sales yet. So my tricky question would be to Liliana, if you also can contribute based on your experience, what to do if there are no sales and some startup founders, they come into meeting, but still there is no any verification. How to understand what's actually wrong? Is it a problem with sales process or it's particular problem in the product? So Liliana, if you can join our discussion and reflect on that, please.
Yes, sure. Slava, I think it is, if there is no sales coming, that means you need to go back to the drawing board and start looking into what needs to be adjusted. Yeah, so it is going back again to review your value proposition. Is this good enough? Is this really solving a specific problem? Is your approach the right one? It is the conversation you have and the way you engage with various prospect clients. Is this the right approach? Do you really go on and highlight the value you can produce them or you can deliver to them, or is just trying to have a sales pitch? So I think a very important thing is, and most of the people, rather, especially in the big companies, they are not interested in a sales pitch. I think we hear quite a lot of this, and you get a lot of messages. So I think the purpose and what's very important for a founder, and especially in the early stage, it is the first conversation with somebody who may be interested in getting and acquiring their product and buying their product or their solution, is to understand how the solution will help them from various reasons, to solve a problem, to reduce the cost, to better get engagement with their customers, so on and so forth. So make sure you really focus on this one. So in my view, I don't think there is a clear recipe. We say take this one and apply it. It's not like we are developing here a cooking book. So there's some kind of aspect which tested and defined, which are helping founders to bring the products to the market and engage with their customers. But definitely a lot of things can be adjusted. So I think, to conclude, in my view, if there is no sales yet, that means something needs to be adjusted in the way you engage with your customers. It is about refining the product. It is about refining the speech. It is about refining the product proposition. Or maybe another question, an important one, is that the right target? Yeah, so you've been there and you have various conversations and still there is no feedback. Is that your customer? Or you need to review the customer and you need to see and redefine your customer and find new people you want to engage from a completely different perspective.
Thank you very much, Liliana, for your reflection. And for sure, it's a challenge and a tricky question. Sometimes it's not quite obvious, but thanks a lot for your point of view. And now I would like to ask Bruno, if you can join our discussion, what advice you give to startups as well, if there are no sales yet, and how to make sure there is no fundamental problem with product, and when to make that decision that product should be changed or fixed rather than sales process.
So this is a very interesting question. The first thing is that, if there is no sales, it's because you are not doing something. And it's not like you are unlucky or anything like that. You have to take responsibility for that. And I think what was cited were all the different conditions, whether it's the pitch or the product or, a lack of a value proposition, are certainly the reasons to look for. I will focus, so I will not add on that, but I'm going maybe to focus on the second part of your question is like, when can you decide it is the time to pivot? Okay. Well, the time is, is for me, the best criteria. You can be in a very difficult situation if you have not studied your customer needs. Okay. In my take is that most startup, when there is no sales, in the end, is that they have not found one customer need which is triggering sales and interest, which makes them must have, if you want. And the absence of that is very, 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 very often a lack of inquiry about what could be the customer needs that can trigger the sales of a solution like you. And so, that's why I was saying you should start. And yes, for instance, there was like, it could be that you don't have access to the customer need because you don't know the customer. So the first thing I will say is that if you have no sales, try to ask yourself not whether you have met customers, because very probably you have, but whether you have actually understood customer needs. Not what you imagine they are, but hear people saying spontaneously that they need something that it turns out your solution can answer to. And if you meet 5-10 people and none of them evoke a problem that your solution evolve, it means that you don't have product fit, and you might need to evolve. And if you don't think you can have product fit, then try to find another vertical market. That's for sure. But the key to know and to be able to say whether you are advancing in the right direction is the work on customer needs. That's what I would say. And that requires to define with your customer and all the things that we decide before. I hope this helps.
Thank you very much, Bruno. I think for sure it helps to our viewers and to those who just about at that stage. And as we discussed it, that's quite challenging to define whether it's a sales process need to be fixed or something need to be pivoted in the product. But equally, sometimes we may realize it's subject of price negotiations, that can be a potential reason why your product is not getting purchased by customer. So, and some startup founders, they really struggle to define where is this border and where is exactly the moment to give the deduction of the price and make a discount for customer. So maybe Christine, you can give us advice on how to make this decision-making process, whether we need to give a discount or we need to stay on our final price with no change.
Well, if it was only the discount, I think it would be very easy, and it would be a very big coincidence if this is the case then with many different leads. I think what is, from my experience with startups, very often underestimated is the work which a potential client has to develop and release a new supplier. So if a startup would be a new supplier, and it's a lot of work and a lot of risk to actually start a partnership with a new company. So there's work like, first of all, you have to find an agreement. Then the production needs to test, or technical department needs to test it. Specifications need to be done. The companies need to be connected. Everything is now connected. So that this whole end-to-end processes need to be done. So the IT department has tons of things to do. So it takes a lot of work and, as I said, risk, because your potential client still doesn't know if at the end of the day everything will work. So maybe the product doesn't perform, or it takes another year until it performs. There will be delays, and maybe even delays which impact their customers. So be prepared. So that's my advice. Be prepared to take their fear about a lot of work and a lot of risk. And when you have answers to this risk, which I just mentioned, that helps. These were the general things. If there's a new partner, with startups especially, there are a few more extra points. Make sure that your business, that your company really is presented as a company which will exist more than 2 or 3 years, because it's not like a one-time product and there's no more ideas afterwards, for example. Make sure that it's your lifetime passion that you build this company. I've met startups where I could read on their nose already that they will do this for 2 years and then they can't wait to be an employee at automobile company. So make sure that you come over as really a business person who want to continue to do this startup. And of course, present your professionalism in preparation of the meeting, but also about knowing the business, the company, your contact person and the market. So the more professional you come over, the better it is. And it's facts, it's all about facts, less about a certain personality or something. Just be yourself. But these are risks which your potential clients see, and this may add to a lot of hesitancy to really do business with you.
Thank you very much, Christine, for your reflection. And I think this is very essential points about how we, can define that possibility to reduce the cost and the price of the product, or we just need to stay and, make sure we just able to convince customers to use our product and service. Thanks a lot, and stay with us because we have some quite challenging questions as well. And for sure, we talk today about building a sales strategy for a tech startup, and definitely we talk about highly scalable tech startups when sales process need to be ideally automated, and also it needs to be quick in a way of growth and also expansion. So, and a lot of startup founders, they think, okay, when exactly I can go to investors to scale up my business and try to automate my sales process? How many sales should I make before I can actually come to investors and get some external funding? And I think this question is being asked many times by early stage startup founders and also at Account Founders Lab. So maybe Liliana, you also can contribute to our discussion about that. When exactly startup founders can go to pitch to investors in order to convince them to put money into the company to scale up the sales process and make more sales for scalability potential. So Liliana, maybe you can reflect on that.
No, absolutely. I think it is, you can go in a very early stage, as long as, I think that there will be a few moments. One, it is, you can pitch your idea. And definitely if your idea is strong, if you are very clear who is your customer, the market potential, you have a very clear value proposition, and you have a clear go-to-market strategy. You know exactly where and how to reach your customers. I think that's a clear moment when you can go already and pitch for investment. Now, also having I would say also you need to have a clear business plan. You need to know exactly what it is, the price positioning, where you exactly do you see your product or service or solution sitting into the market versus competitors, and into the market environment overall. And not only this, it is how do you see this evolving? What will be some kind of expectations and growth opportunities, and how your business plan looks like. Because at the end of the day, what you need to share with the possible investors, it is the potential of your business idea. Of course, in the moment when you have some initial sales, you have also some proof that your idea is working, that customers do want your product or your solution. So, and they're ready to pay for it. I think that's a fundamental aspect and very, very important. You need to prove that customers are ready and eager to pay for your solution. So I think to conclude, it is make sure you've done your homework very well. You have a clear, also good business plan. You can show to possible investors. Also, you can show them that you have a plan. It's not just yourself. Yeah, so it's just one single person, that somebody will be very, it would be hard for someone to invest in a business where there is not a team. So you need to show that it exists a team. It doesn't need to be necessarily, fully employed in your business, but you need to have a team who will be able to support any possible quick extension, for example, if you ask for investment. So make sure you've done your homework, you are able to prepare, you have a business plan. And if you have also the initial first results of the sales, you can prove that there is a demand for your product, and the customers are eager to pay.
Thank you very much, Liliana, for your opinion on that. And for sure, having a business plan and have a clear roadmap of how you can scale up your business is the key for convincing investors to scale up your business. Thanks a lot for that. And now I also would like to ask the Bruno, which was the judge during our investment pitch day at Accelerator in past. And if Bruno, you remember, we had many startups at pre-revenue stage, and it was quite challenging because they didn't have any sales at the moment they presented their startups. So now is the question, how many sales they need to make in order to convince investors to put money into the company?
Yes, so my answer to that is that it depends, of course, on what type of investment, if you're looking for seed stage or if you're looking for Series A, okay? First of all, if you're looking for seed stage, I think that a few sales will help. We are speaking B2B here, if you're a high ticket item, a few B2B sales will help, because the people at the seed level, they want to see, if you sell 2 or 3 times your solution, it's an early indication of the market, and the type of investors you will look for seeds are people who are probably have some understanding of your market, and they can have a good feeling for the potential of your product. So if they see that there is 1 or 2 sales, it will actually ground their feeling into the reality of your team having been able to sell it and your solution. And so that's sufficient. Now, if you are looking more for Series A or later stage of funding than seed, or late seed, then you have a problem. It's not anymore a problem of a number of sales. It's a problem of the predictability of sales. And what I mean by that is that you need to have, in my experience, everything is possible, of course, some people will get to Series A even in B2B on a slideware. I did that in my past. We raised 2.5 million euro for a fintech I co-created a very long time ago. But the most probable scenario is that you need to not only have sold maybe 10 times or something like that, but you need to have sold, to customers for the same reason. This is what I mean by predictability. You need to have found a reason for customer to purchase, which is the same across several customers. Maybe you still need customization among the various customers, but you need to have found a common reason, a common priority among your customer that explains why they buy from you. Because you have this predictability, then you actually have the foundation of scalability. And that's where you can go and see your VC and say, look, we have been selling for maybe 5 or 6 companies based on this pitch, this reason to purchase, this must have. And now we think that there is I'm just making that on the purpose. We think that there is in the world 500 companies like that, or 5,000 companies. I don't know. Okay, it depends on your market, of course. But they will buy for the same reason, and that's why we think there's market. So suddenly you're speaking about the market because you're speaking about the reason to buy. And this is the stage, according to me, where if you reach there, you still have some financing needs, because it might require to invest in salesperson and in order to scale more and things like that. And that's where you can justify the need for a higher level of funding. I hope this answers your question.
Thanks a lot, Bruno. For sure, that's quite essential question for many startup founders to understand. Thanks a lot for clarification regarding the different stages and rounds of investments. And for sure, it's also related to the stage of the company development and expansion. So I think looking back to my experience, and I guess our special experts who joined us today, a lot of startup founders, they make a huge focus on reaching new customers, but sometimes we may realize that dealing with existing customers and scalability potential also can be done while engaging and providing more services to existing customers. And for sure, it's a subject of negotiation and subject of establishing long-term relationship with the customers you deal with. So now I would like to ask Christine, maybe there are some tricks and maybe some tips on how to get the better negotiation and also establish long-term relationship with existing customers, and maybe provide better customer retention and maximize costs and sales for existing customers we may have. So join our conversation, please.
Yeah, thank you, Slava. Very interesting point when we look back to the aspect what you can negotiate. In these, and it's not just one negotiation. Typically, it's a process where it's an initial meeting with some ideas, and then probably 2 or 3 further meetings. If a real new partnership develops, so there will be several meetings. So within this process, you get to know each other and need to build trust, and you build a scenario how a contract could look like. And especially for US startups, it's probably of high interest to have a long-term contract. So this could be a very good point in the negotiation when the procurement person says, yeah, well, everything's fine, but you need to do something on the price. Wonderful argument to say, okay, I can do something, but then we don't only talk about a 1-year contract, but we need a 3-year contract, something like this. So that's a very good opportunity to really bind the customer to you. Second aspect could be that you have a scale in the contract saying that, okay, I understand that you are skeptical a little bit, but we will prove to you that we are a great supplier. Assuming we can prove to you that we are a good supplier, could the quantity of the year 2 be, I don't know, 50% higher and be in year 3 than at a 100%, something like this. Also like a nice scale, you can plan very well, you can present to your investors very well, a long-term relationship. So this is a wonderful opportunity actually to work with a potential client on this. And this you can't only do it right at the beginning. Of course, when you see the progress is going on and first tests have been successful and there were supplies, you can always go back and say, you know what, you've seen now business running smoothly. Why don't we talk now about a bigger contract, and so on and so forth. So use this opportunity proactively and to talk about increasing quantities and as well as a longer term contract.
Thank you very much, Christine. It's Christine Fellow from Hamburg, Germany, helping us to figure out how to make a procurement process successful. So please stay with us. And for sure, there are a few more challenging questions I want to cover today because we talk about sales process in the tech startup. And what I want to highlight here that for sure we discussed before about the importance of knowing the value proposition and kind of understanding the problem we're trying to solve for customer, and also establishing the long-term relationship by providing the relevant price, quality, the value, and making sure we kind of can keep this a long-term collaboration and retention of existing customers. But one of the challenges I observe at our Elegant Club activities and also accelerator program that some of great projects, they stuck simply because some local markets across Europe, they can be simply limited in scalability potential. So even we reach some significant market share, there is a challenge because there is no way to scale up startup, in the long run. So we some startups, they're looking for some opportunities, whether they need to build new product or they should go to another market. So definitely I would like to ask Bruno if you can join our conversation and give us a tip how to understand if you're stuck in a challenge of reaching the significant market share and we need to make a decision whether we should go to a new market or we just need to bring some new product on existing one simply because we already got some market share. What would be your advice on how to solve that scalability problem for a startup?
Can you repeat the question? Sorry, I missed the beginning. I did not understand.
Sure, absolutely. So what I was saying that one of the challenges I observe in our community that some startups, they have limited scalability potential simply because the local market sometimes is small. So some startups, they think how they can scale up further. Do they need to come up with some additional sub product or maybe a product for another target audience? Or they need to go to some another market with exactly the same product. So what would be your advice?
Well, we find ourselves in this position. So I can explain from my experience. I'm not sure I have a recipe for in every case, okay? But I can share my experience there. As I was speaking, I co-created a company called Smart Trade. And it was quite a long time ago. Now it's a six-figure. It has been six figures sales company, 7 figures, sorry, sales company. And so it's quite advanced, and it has been sold to a fund in the States. But the initial problem we had is that this company was created in France, and our clients were big banks. Okay, to make a long story short. And we were targeting big banks to manage the treasury inside the banks. And it was a new solution with radically a new approach to how to optimize the internal treasury of a bank. And what happened is that we were facing, in France, there is 10 banks, mostly, which were potential customer, 10 big banks, I would say. And we face the problem is two problem is that first 10 banks is very small. Okay, it's very small as a market, so there's clearly no possibility to scale here. That was one thing. And the second, it was so small that you could not burn yourself. If you miss one client, you miss 10% of the market. So that was like very making it very difficult for us to start there. And so in fact, based on this, the only solution we found, okay, was we get some quite high level of funding in our case. Initially, we even from the start, but the only strategy we were able to follow was to actually go in the English market where there was much more banks, okay, because it's a banking market very developed, and there was like around 40 to 50 banks which were in our target. A lot of US banks, subsidiary of US banks with autonomous activity and decision making and so on. And so we were meeting a lot of decision maker. And here, the strategy we followed, we were absolutely convinced that we were solving a key problem, and the liquidity problem inside the bank, how to optimize the liquidity in OTC markets. But I'm not going to delve into the problem because it's a complex technical problem for banks. But we were convinced we had a good solution, and here we needed to go to England because there was much more possibility in terms of sales development. And also, just the fact of, and this is something that I will advise as a general strategy, try to sell initially, if you have a chance, this is what we did in England, to the smaller banks, to the customer which are the least interesting. Because if your sales pitch is not yet good, at least you are failing with a minor bank, a tier 2 bank in our case, as opposed to failing with Goldman Sachs. Okay, you don't want to fail the sales to Goldman Sachs, and so we didn't approach Goldman Sachs in first. So I hope that answers the question. But so if I had to generalize from that, if you really think that your solution is has a high potential, and you are sure that it is the case, then just go. If your solution is important to sell, and presumably if you have created this company it's a very important. This solution is also express a part of yourself in terms of interest and things like that. Don't hesitate to go in another country to sell it.
Thank you very much, Bruno, for sharing your story, and thanks for giving that advice to startups as well. So for sure, it's quite essential question, and I know that it's quite challenging question for many startups. And now I would like to ask also Liliana's opinion, because many students at Crowdfounders Lab, they're coming from multiple countries and multiple backgrounds. Some of the startups they aim to launch, they are also launched in some small and limited markets. So maybe you can give an advice on how startup founders should make this decision, whether they should go with new products or they should go to new larger markets to avoid this kind of stuck moments with the market share limits.
I think depends very much, Slava, by the opportunity. Adding a new extension to your portfolio while you are still in a very small scale may be a bit difficult, and definitely the focus may not be there, and you start diluting your energy and your money. So coming to your point, I think for a startup it is about first, I think it is about really establishing in the market where you start and get further and extend geographically. I think that's an opportunity, or find new clients in another area. So I think it is about extension. It is about market penetration, what we call it in marketing. Yeah. So you really go into new markets, you identify new opportunities, you have your idea which proven to work. So you have already clients, you have the kind of the proof that that's a viable proposition. So I suggest you go identify some other areas and places where this can work. Where you can identify some similar customers and solve their problem before, I would say, extending your portfolio. Simply because you are still in an early stage, that whatever you have yet is not well established. And extending portfolio will just dilute your focus and investment and resources in too many very small slices. So for me, it is go big, focus on that one, go somewhere else, develop this into a place where it can be a better opportunity or a bigger one in an additional market, and then look into extension.
Thanks a lot for your reflection. To add on that, I guess we all met that stories that some startup founders not only interested to launch several products, but they operate with several startups at the same time, which is even more challenging. And thanks for mentioning that point about keeping the focus and making sure you get sustainable track record with at least one product first and at least one market first, and then to find the opportunity to scale it up. But I think this is the essential part, that this is maybe one of the common mistakes some startup founders do when they try to scale up the business. They think, okay, we will try to open some new related startups and will help to facilitate some existing product, which is not always the case. And sometimes it's just like making them defocused regarding their activities.
Absolutely, Slava. I think, very honest, in a very early stage, you need to keep your focus. There will be a lot of temptations. I think it's rather if you realize that something may not work and may not be, you may not be progressing as expecting. As also Bruno mentioned earlier, you need to go back and review your proposition, review your customer need, or go to look into and review whatever the whole entire business, and see if this business proposal you have today, it is really the strongest one possible, or you rather pivot and adjust this business core. The core of your business, and make sure that that will allow you to extend. Then keeping the focus on this one, extend it to additional other markets. Let's call it like this. Can depending where exactly you are present. So I would say, if you talk about startups, a seeding model, which something which has been developed in the corporate world, but that actually works here. It is you're just adding. So you do a first step, and then you add something the next one, So it is like building a house. You put first the foundation. You don't start really, building all the rooms, and you start to connect them somewhere at the ground. and then maybe put a roof above. So you start really, foundation, have a proper one, and then you add the next step and the next step, and then see where you can go with this one. But like having a strong foundation will allow you to progress. You also allow you to have a really successful story when you go and look for investment to move to the next phase. You'll have strong results to show, and then you just can go further and investigate what exactly are the new markets or new segments where you can enter with the same proposition.
Thank you, Liliana, for your add-on. And we covering multiple challenges for sales in the tech startup today. And now, for sure, I want to give some essential highlights of today's discussion. And for sure, as we discussed, keeping the focus, making sure you understand the value proposition of your customer, you make research, and you're able to pitch and present your product and solution for right person in the organization, and making sure you're prepared to negotiate. But equally, I still believe there are some maybe common mistakes, our experts observe during their activities dealing with startups and startup founders. So maybe I can ask Christine as well to give us some reflection on what are the common mistakes some startup founders do when they do negotiations and procurement, and maybe they have some other obstacles we need to highlight here and make sure they're not making typical mistakes when they do sales process. Please.
Yeah. So that's a very interesting point. So what I found and always hear is that there are some situations in negotiations which are very difficult for startups because they are not used to it. For example, so I heard from a sensor technology company who went to a big automobile company, and the procurement lady said, "Oh, you have to go down as far as I can see and calculate this by 10%. He said, "Okay, I will look at it." Looked at it, went back. She again then said, "Oh, no, that's enough. Not enough." Again, 10%. You can say no when you know your value. So that's the key thing, where a lot of startups who don't know this procedure continue to reduce prices, and they don't even need to. Just try. That's my lowest price I can do for this. Second is you need to stand a moment of silence. Silence is one of the most one of the strongest tactics in a negotiation. So if you can even use it. If you say, my price is 1,000 euros, and the procurement person looks at you and says, "What? You don't need to explain it. You just wait until the other person says something." The other way around is when the procurement person says, "No, this price we can't pay," you don't need to go down then. You can also wait in the silence. So silence, watch the silence in negotiation, or use it even for your thing. And thirdly, the third point is what points I see very often. There are some little tricks of meetings. These are, for example, misunderstandings. So make sure that you write down everything which has been negotiated, even within the meeting, maybe as a summary at the end of the meeting. So the new price now is like this, the terms of payments are like that, delivery time is such and such, sample costs are such and such. Sometimes misunderstandings happen because it's a human thing, but unfortunately in negotiations, they are sometimes also like, "Oh, no, I understood this price is only valid for this and this." So very important advice, write down a summary at the end of the meeting, and to avoid misunderstandings. So these are the three big topics where very often problems occur otherwise.
Thank you very much, Christine, for your reflection of top advice and top tips on how to make sure you're not making the typical mistakes in the startup sales process. And thanks for mentioning this ability to say no and knowing the value of your product and service when you see that actually you cannot make a discount. You don't have to, compromise because you know what you offer to a potential user and customer. And for sure, one of the challenges I observe when we engage with startups from all across the globe actually is also the cross-cultural aspect, when some negotiation process in Germany may look different to France, to the UK, to some other countries. And now I would like also to invite Bruno. Maybe you can reflect on that. You was dealing with multiple international markets, and maybe you can also reflect on observations of what are the challenges experience startups when they deal and negotiate and maybe do sales in different markets, and what other typical mistakes startup founders do when they do sales process.
Well, yes, I would like to follow up to what Christine was saying, because in a negotiation, when she said the ability to say no, I think that if your sales start to start up in a way, to scale, not to scale, but if you start to sell several times and you are about to get to a repeatable sales process, it's because of one thing, is that you are in a position to create for your customer the regret of not buying your solution. That's what somehow you are helping them to achieve something which is important that they can't do without you. Unless you have achieved that, you don't have an opportunity actually. So it's because you have found an action, an objective that they want to accomplish, which is very important for them, and that they can't do without your solution, or that suddenly you are in a unique position. Okay. And it's your ability to articulate that will make you able to create the regret. So when you are, one of the common mistakes is not to understand what will make the customer regret not buying you, because it is understanding that puts you in a strong position to negotiate. It doesn't mean that you are going to ask $1 million for a solution which you have to know what the value they will give to it, and try to position yourself. But once you understand the regret, and I will say, in B2B, you often hear people will say, "Oh, I want to focus on the ROI, the return on investment of my solution is so big that people will purchase." And personally, I don't believe that. I think that the return on investment is an important aspect of a decision, but it is usually the case once the people have decided they need to justify the price they are going to pay to their own eyes. So they look at the ROI, and so you need to be able to provide a rational justification for buying your decision at what price, and it's an important aspect. But the reason they will have bought is that it's the regret principle. It's because they will have realized that their company is miss something that you provide, and that if they don't have it, they will miss it. Okay. And that is the nature that will give you strength, understanding that in a one-to-one manner when in a sales, and also at the marketing level when you are trying to orchestrate predictability in sales, is what give you or your salesman, if you are a bit developed now, strength in the negotiation process. So the most common mistakes is not understanding why, not so much why you are unique, but why customer will regret not purchasing you.
Thank you very much, Bruno, for highlighting these important points about regretting points, and also making sure that customers, they also can be, can regret about the fact that they didn't buy products or purchase the product from your particular customer. And I think the reason why it may happen is also that some startups, some customers, they also pay attention to the values of the product, the values of service startups provide, and also the values of entrepreneurs, the values of startup as a company. And I think here we come to the point of questions like social responsibility, sustainable aspects, and social impact of certain startups when the customers, they may buy certain product or service because they feel aligned with the values and philosophy of particular startup. And now I probably would like to ask Liliana if you can reflect on that, on how to use the values of startup, the values of startup founders, the way how do they engage with customers in to present it as a unique selling points, and maybe to present it as a kind of point of possible regret to do not make a purchase from that particular company or service. So maybe you can give an advice.
Absolutely. Hope you can hear me. That's a little bit noisy here, but I hope that's still
Yes,
okay. I assume it will stop soon. No, I think it's all about value. As a business, you need to bring value. You need to understand your customer and how you bring them value to them. So that's the starting point of your business, and that's something you need to transmit this this aspect as you go and develop your business. So this should come very clearly through from the beginning, every single stage of your business. You talk about sustainability and sustainable ethical aspects. I think this should be at the core of the business in the moment when you start it. You need to really build a business which has some ethics, has ethics and sustainability embedded into the core of the business. Make sure that also that's very clearly coming through. The proposition is coming very clearly through and easy to understand for your customers and further for investors. So that should be a real, to say, fully integrated in any kind of thinking in the development of the business, in everything you do in every single space. And why this? I think this is becoming more important for all the businesses around the world in terms of delivering and being, bringing a sustainable proposition to the market and engaging in a sustainable way with the customers, and also having a positive impact on the planet, people, on society. So that's what exactly people do expect. Your customers would expect, either that's a company or that's a final customer. So they do expect you to deliver and be fully aligned with all these aspects. So coming to this point, it is make sure that you are clear on the value from the day one, in the moment when you have and define your idea, and as it evolves, and you transmit and you communicate this value in every single point of your business as you progress and as you start a conversation. And again, connecting the value with the problems which this product or your solution is going to bring and to solve to your customers. This will help them understand they need your product. I think that's the fundamental aspect, So, and then the discussion is not about price, about plus minus 5%, 1%, 10% on the cost, as long as they understand how they get value from you. Yeah. So then basically they will be open to pay the right price for that value. And then it is about, where you position, how well did you understand their needs, and then the way you can give them value. So I think it is very important to make sure that you deliver value to your customers, and then you move away from conversation of plus minus 5%, 10%, or whatever it is there.
Thank you very much, Liliana, for your reflection on how to make sales process successful and how to provide an established value for our customers. But that's also a question to entrepreneurs and startup founders: what value they include into their product and service, and how it's aligned with their values, their personal values as individuals and also founders of the company. Thanks a lot. And I also want to ask a last question and also a reflection from Christine. As you know, sales process and negotiation is also making sort of an evolution over the years. And we had the COVID now, post-COVID times. And I believe some startups ask you how to negotiate and how to make sales process online via some virtual calls and maybe some virtual discussions with customers, how to pitch, how to present, and what is the specific. So maybe you can give a few tips, few advice about sales process in 2022, whether it's online or offline. What is the recent trend or change in sales and negotiation process for startups, please?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, you see probably on many, many websites of potential clients a folder called procurement or purchasing, where there is an online process where you have to apply. So I just, for example, I spoke to a huge German, or I tried to speak to a huge German technology company the other day for a startup. And if I hadn't known anybody there personally, everybody would have directed me directly only to this website. On these websites, there are questionnaires about your company, your product, and a lot of safety specification and certificate questions, compliance questions. When you are lucky, it's a shorter version for innovations. For existing products, it's very often a very long process. So that means you have to be really well prepared for a lot of questions already just to talk to somebody of this company. That's a big change. Second big change is when you are finally talking to somebody and you want to build a business relationship to somebody. From my experience, and I've been in negotiations for 20 years, and there are hundreds of negotiations every year. The biggest question or the biggest problem is again and again trust. So of course, you in a negotiation you can't completely openly tell things. That's very clear. So, but to which point do you do this? So we had general discussions about trust, and typically trust you can build when you meet people personally and build a relationship. So my advice is try to meet these people at least eventually, because when you have a personal relationship to these people or this potential client, it's really easier, much easier. There is a reason why in former times there's a cliche that the best businesses are being done at a bar at night on a napkin, because this is a moment where you have a very good relationship to each other and you're relatively honest because you had a drink. So try to do this. If you can't do it, really try to really include some small talk and to build a relation with that person and get to know that person, and allow that person also to meet you even virtually as a private person, so that there is a business relation really developing. That's a very important point, a very successful point if you do this in a proper way. So this would be my advices.
Thank you very much, Christine, for your advice on how to negotiate and provide and to establish sales process in 2022. And thanks for highlighting the question of trust. Over the decades, it's still there. We need to trust people in order to make some deals happen. And it's quite challenging nowadays when we have to engage with some potential and existing customers online. But we try to reflect on that, and thanks for your contribution over our discussion. And now I would like to ask also Bruno, as we still have the evolution of sales process. And Bruno, I guess you observed how it was decades before and now it's changing, and new solutions, new technologies, new tools required in order to facilitate sales process for startups. So I know that you've been working on some solutions for that direction as well. So maybe you can give advice to startup founders on how to make sales in 2022, and maybe you can give few words more about your projects and your solution for scalability of sales process.
Sure. So the in B2B the key B2B markets, the key to growth is of course customer acquisition. Of new customer acquisition, and especially at the beginning, of course. But for a very long time, it's going to be, and maybe you will have opportunities to sell more to the same customer, and so much the better. But usually you have one product, one offering, and you don't maybe completely delineate how the value it creates. So you don't have yet unbundled this product in several sub-products. So you're selling something a bit, massive. So new customer generation is very important. And there is many lead generation tools and techniques, marketing automation, inbound and outbound marketing, content marketing, of course, which is part of them. And they have a huge contribution in terms of increasing the number of leads in your sales pipeline. Okay. But in our experience, it does not necessarily increase the proportion of decision makers that will perceive your solution as a priority for their business. And it might be the case. I mean, I'm certainly not going to say that, but one of the key problems you have is that, and that many startups face, and in my experience, whether it's at the early stage, but even at a later stage, is that there is a lot of education and pedagogy that is needed to convince customers to purchase. And the reason for that is that usually your customer do not enter your sales cycle with a very good awareness of the problem that you are solving for them. They are somehow interested by your solution, okay? Because otherwise, you succeed in making them come, but they don't have a clear, very defined idea about what is it that you are solving for them. And so as a result, all your sales, usually a lot of startups end up using the sales process to try to find out what is the customer problem they are solving with their solution, especially at the early stage. And if you do that, you end up with a very long sales cycle. First of all, the customer might say, okay, I really don't see where they are going, and it will be interrupted prematurely. But, you might also work a long time, and I've seen that many times, try to understand the customer need with the customer, with the help of the customer, and at the end, the customer, after a long effort where he was devoting time to you, he realized that, in fact, the type of problem you are solving are not so important for his company. And so you have invested this huge amount of time on something, on a prospect that end up not buying. There's nothing more frustrating. And so our analysis is that all these problems come from the fact that clients do not enter your sales funnel by understanding what is the problem you solve. Because if they were entering the problem, your sales funnel with a clear view of the problem you are solving, they will, and a clear view that it is one of their problems, of course, then it means that they will, all the sales discussion is about why your solution is addressing my need. And this reduces considerably the amount of pedagogy you need, and it simplifies a lot the decision-making process. So we have invented a new way of approaching market that actually enables to understand very precisely what the decision maker, and that of course requires working on who is the decision maker. But once you understand who is the decision maker, which could be a C-level person, to understand, to predict exactly to what he will pay attention in order to find out, to make him purchase, to make him understand that your offer is essential for his business, for the company he's working for. And that's what we are doing. And it's a complementary solution. It's a kind of, it helps to accelerate customer decision, and it helps giving sense to your marketing automation, content marketing, inbound and outbound marketing. We work, if you want, on the messaging and on the understanding of what will make decision makers pay attention to your solution. That's what we do, and it's a different thing. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak about that.
Thank you very much, Bruno. We had amazing discussion with our invited expert. It was Bruno Levy from Paris, France. Also, Liliana Kaimakan from London, UK, the the professor from International Business School, Halt International Business School, London, our frequent expert, book contributor to our upcoming book project called How to Build a Tech Startup from Concept to Market. Christine Fellow from Hamburg, Germany, also shared her reflections on many questions we discussed today. Thank you very much, everyone who watched us. You are more than welcome to ask any questions in chat. And thank you to our experts who joined our discussion. It was a multi-international reflections on how to establish a sales process in a tech startup. Definitely, we didn't cover everything, but for sure, it was our answer to some top questions being asked across our events and activities before. So tomorrow, 6 p.m. London time, we have a special session focused on common failures in a tech startup. So join us live on LinkedIn Live, YouTube Live, and more than welcome to watch us after our live broadcast session. So it was a pleasure to have all of you, Christine, Liliana, and Bruno, and welcome to join us at our next live broadcast sessions. So we are done for today and looking forward to see you tomorrow. Stay tuned.